These are for, this basically discloses that there might be mixed use in condos, whether it might be like residential, commercial, or hotel use. And this discloses to the buyer. Let's see here. It says there's no additional information for this. Seller simply must provide the disclosures. It's important to note that this acknowledgement does not give the buyer a right to cancel a contract. This is why you do your due diligence before. All right, so these are the new seller property disclosures. Most of this, what you've seen, is what you've already seen on your condo disclosure. The revisions really come into play on page 3, where they have here the association. You'll see part 3 where it says, E, to your knowledge, is there any discussion or conversion of discussion of a conversion to the condominium into something else? There's also some more information regarding structural integrity. So this was letter E. And then they've added also information about the the structural integrity and reserve study. So that would be section 8. That is the new change to the condo property seller disclosure.
Could you repeat those?
Yeah. So it's under section 7, E. It talks about if there's been any discussion about conversions.
Okay.
And then section 8. That whole section is revised.
Okay.
Okay. So, gathering essential documents. When you're going to list a condo, you want to try to get ahead of having your lender reach out for certain things. Number one, now we know we have to have the budget. We want to request the reserve study. And we want to get the bylaws, the rules and regulations all up front when you're listing. Condo declaration and docs. You want to get a copy of your master insurance policy for the building. This will later help the lending side of things. You want, obviously, your HOA application.
And I want to add, can I add something?
Absolutely.
So one thing I want to add that's really important when you're listing something, always, you know how sometimes I'm not a realtor, but I've seen in listings that they put FHA, conventional, so-and-so approved. Don't do that. 90%, 100% of the time, I should say, FHA is not going to touch that condo. So don't do that in other listings, because then you have other agents, buyer's agents, that don't really have the knowledge to know we cannot do an FHA loan. So now you're under contract with your seller and the buyer on an FHA loan that we all know is not going to work for 15 or 20 days for no reason. Now, before in the past, there were some FHA condos approved, but a lot of the times that's expired. They don't have enough reserves. So the FHA loan are not going to touch them. Sometimes, depending on the budget, and you guys, is really important to understand those budgets. And when you guys are going to be listing your budget, we can even help you by you sending us the condo budget for you already to know from day one if this is going to work as a condo deal, depending on the down payment, or if it's going to be cash. Because sometimes if they have a lot of litigations, no reserves or anything, even a conventional loan won't even work. So this is where you guys become educators to your sellers and to those buyers' agents. So you're not under contract for 30 or 60 days and everybody's like, I don't know what happened. And the seller's mad at you, and then the buyer thinks, everybody's like, you know, this all starts from that listing appointment for you to educate everybody. So first, no FHA, unless it's an FHA approved condo, but I can tell you that's maybe 1%. 2, we need that budget. Before you list it, we can tell you, okay, yes, this works, this has reserves. You can take a contract with 5, 10, You know, if it has reserves, you can do as little as 5% down if it's a primary. If it has no reserves, you already know, you know, you can educate your buyer's agent, this has no reserves, so we're gonna go here. This is how we're gonna list it. Or it's gonna be cash, right?
Right, it is really important that when you guys list a property, especially a condominium, that you do the homework before you even take the listing. There's many cases where we had called listing agents to ask about a buyer trying to buy this condo, and they have no idea. Hey, have you guys have you done any financing on this condo before? No, I don't know. Would they take conventional, or I don't know? And it's irritating. Like, when you list a property, you have to know, you have to get familiarized with that HOA. And that's where Victoria and Narelli was saying, you know, ask for the budget, ask for the master insurance. Those two items are becoming very popular now with condos. What happened is, since the building collapsed in Miami, the state of Florida went into all these buildings now, all these condominiums, and it started making additional requirements to put those condos up to safety, right? So because condos don't have a lot of money right now, they're increasing now, their HOA fees are increasing, they're running out of reserve money,
Right.
so they don't have enough money. In order to cut down on different items of the HOA, what they're doing now, they're increasing the deductibles on the insurance, right? So it's cheaper now. So all those things would create a problem when you have a buyer. It could be either the budget, it could be they don't have reserve, and let's say maybe, oh my God, yeah, they had the buyer's fine, you know, they had enough reserve, the concentration on the condominium is perfect, but now we get the master insurance and they have, you know, a 15% deductible on the master insurance. Nobody's gonna touch it.
And assessments.
And
Yeah.
then becomes the, you know, the assessment, the stuff that they have to fix and they haven't done it, they're on litigation for whatever reason. So there's so many things with the condo. So the better work you do up front, the easier that property is gonna sell. And then on top of that, you're gonna look smart to the seller because you did your homework. Just don't grab a condo and then list it and then hope it'll close, because most likely it's not gonna happen.
Unless it's a really good community. You know, Golden Lakes, that's a bread and butter community. You know, everybody, Golden Lakes is pretty good. It's Okeechobee.
Well, there's single families. Anything above 2 floors and up, they're gonna have to do because of the Surfside.
Correct.
You know, disaster that they had.
Uh-huh.
So they have to, no choice. So there are assessments attached.
Yep.
And you need to find out about it. And then when you're selling these condos, 200,000 and under, and these assessments are $30,000, right? Those guys cannot afford it.
Right, that's why important that before you take the listing, you actually contact the HOA and get all the information that Victoria was saying. Get the budget, get the master
Reserve.
insurance, right? Sometimes if the budget's a little bit short and they don't have that 10% reserve, you can go after the
Reserve study.
the study. What's it
The
called?
reserve study.
The reserve study, right? But then you're gonna run into an issue that not a lot of condominiums have done a reserve study in the past 3 years. So
But we can add things back in a budget, like, you know, that you don't know. There are certain things that we can add back in to make it have 10%. And if your buyer has enough money, it still works. But like Chris was saying with the insurances, that could be a little bit of a situation, but
But a question for you guys. What if the HOA allows the new buyer to just, transfer the assessments over?
well, the assessments, I was going to get into that because the assessment, even though it looks like a lot of money, sometimes it's divided into 30 years. So even if it's
Exactly.
$30,000, it's only $1,000 a month if they want to do that.
Yeah.
You guys can negotiate with the seller. Maybe the seller wants to pay $15,000 and then the buyer stays with $15,000 to only pay. So then, it's not a lot of money per month. So the assessments, that's the least of your worries because we don't really care for
So
assessments.
you guys allow it?
We allow that.
So the new buyers to just go ahead?
Yeah,
and
we can transfer it.
assume the assessments?
Yep.
but they can work it out between the buyer and the seller. Maybe the seller, like she was saying, pay portion
Now,
of
if
it.
it's due, that's where you're going to have a problem if your buyer doesn't have the money. If they don't have the time frame to do it, to pay it, then that's where you might run into the problem because it's due as soon as we close and your
Now
buyer.
you get more valuable the condo because the condo's been updated. So that means whoever bought it, even with the assessments, it's going to be worth more.
Yep.
It's going to be worth
And a lot of the repairs are going to be more towards the structure, right?
Yeah.
Making that building more safe, right? So it's not gonna be like to fix a playground, right? It's gonna be pool repairs, it's gonna be a structure, things like that. So those assessments are good. So, and especially if you wanna move into a condo that is doing all the repairs, right? In a way, it's a good thing, right? Because you're moving into something that is more safe, right?
So like we said, want to get all your essential documents, your budget, reserve study, bylaws, rules and regulation, condo docs, master insurance policy, HOA application. All right, so now we're going to get into the financing part, which you guys already kind of started.
Well, one thing that I wanted to add, if it's okay.
No, go ahead. This is your
Sometimes
your
we
part.
send out approvals out for, let's say, 250 or 200 or 230. And then all of a sudden we get a contract with a condo that's 220 or 240. And everybody's like, oh no, but they're approved to 250. Yes, that's without no HOA. That's a different type of program, because sometimes we're going to maximize it as much as possible to make your deals work. But when you, sometimes like Ismael was saying, Chris was saying, how we were all saying, a lot of the times for the condos to get money is by collecting it from each owner. And how do they do that? By jacking up the HOA fees per month. So we have to consider that, because you have an approval for 250, does that mean they're going to qualify for a condo for 230? Because when we add that HOA fee on top, now they're not going to qualify. So that's very important. A listing of condos is very, very important, very touchy. It's not like a house.
It is so sensitive right now that condos are becoming.
Century Village, everybody, is cash only, please.
Yeah.
It's cash only. They
The
don't
reason
own
why
the
they
land.
don't own the land.
Yeah.
Right? They don't own the land.
Yes. Go ahead.
But when I say like it's very like
Yeah.
when it relates to condos, I mean we do them all the time, right? It takes a little extra work, but every time we see a condo contract, I'm already like shaking. You know, I'm like, oh my god.
And because of the listing agent, not because of the buyer.
Well, yes, and then we're arguing with the buyer's agent because they're like, the listing agent said we can do FHA. I'm like, oh God.
Or they say, oh yeah, we done financing. What can you do? Is it done financing? Yeah, of course they done financing. Maybe they done it with a limited review, and they put 25% down.
Yeah.
No, they done it with 5%, but they don't know. So
They don't know, yeah. So this is where you guys become teachers, professors. Forget your realtor, because you know, realtors, finance, we're psychiatrists, psychologists, we hear it all. We're doctors, professors, right, Ismael?
Oh, yeah.
Right, babe? Right, Victoria? Yeah. Chrisley?
I got theory class after class.
So be careful with, like I said, just.
Master insurance is important.
I
that-
would collect.
Yeah, I would say the main thing that when you are either going to list a condo or you have a buyer who wants to buy a condo is go straight to the listing agent and ask for the budget. That's not.
That's
and
the
once
main
you
one.
get the budget, the buyer can send us the budget, right, directly to us, and then we have a condo review team, right? That once we get that budget and we get, let's say that you get the budget, you get the master insurance, you get the bylaw, right? You can send that information to us. We'll send it to the condo review team, right? We'll review it also, but just to double check and not give you a pre-approval and then say, hey, we can't do it. We'll send it to a condo review team. They'll check the master insurance, they'll check the deductible, they'll check the budget, research, and then they'll tell us, yeah, this condo is good. This condo is good for financing, right? Assuming that the master insurance is fine and the budget is fine. Then once you're on the contract, right, then we send the condo questionnaire, right?
Yeah.
Which is another process.
Yeah.
So even though you go here, you still might be there once we get the condo questionnaire, because it might come back that there is, 80% of, there's 300 buildings and 80% are investment properties, right? That's an example. So that can also create another problem.
But just to interrupt for 1 second, you guys don't have to worry about the condo questionnaire, because that makes no sense to get it up front. Because every time we ask for one, it costs the buyer money.
Yeah, so we do
like
it
you
after contract.
After contract. But before, as soon as we get the contract, or even before you guys get into contract, like he was saying, the budget is super important.
And remember, the condo questionnaire, the buyer pays for it. And every HOA is different. It could be 150, it could be 200, it could be $400. Some of them you got to manually take them to the HOA office. Some of them you can do it online and pay for it and get the condo questionnaire back within a couple of days. But the buyer pays for that.
The budget is free.
But the budget is free. I mean, usually when you list a property, you should list a property with the budget attached to it.
Yep.
No, you have to.
So you don't have that,
Effective.
right,
This-
so that at least
yeah,
you know
that's
now you
good.
have the budget, and then you can send us the budget, we can review it and say, yeah, you're good. Even when you list the property, you can run it by us, and then we say, yeah, that condo's fine, listed it as cash or conventional. And instead of just not knowing whether that condo will close as an conventional financing, right? So at least you have that information up front, so you know that you can list that property now. Or if you have a buyer that wants to buy it, same thing with the buyer. At least you know up front that it's doable, right? Pending on the condo questionnaire.
Okay, so everybody has that written down, write it down. Everybody has a pen. So the budget is very important. That's the first thing, is budget, and ask the HOA, is there any special assessments?
And master insurance.
But the
Master
master is,
No, master is
you can get it, but that could be budget, but yeah.
Any questions on any of that related to the budget or?
Aren't they all required by a certain time to have a reserve condos? I thought there was something in the new law where
No.
they're in the future, they're gonna be required to have reserves.
I mean,
No.
that would be awesome, right? But
they
remember
don't.
that relates to collecting money from
Right.
From the unit owners.
from the unit owners, right? And that's why you see now that all these HOAs are trying to catch up to the repairs. They're not even thinking about, after the repairs, how do we collect extra money now
For
to
reserve.
have the
Right.
10% reserve, right? So that's why we are in the mix of HOA spending money to do the repairs that are required by the state, and at the same time having enough funds to build or finance those condominiums.
Okay, so once you've collected all your documents as a listing agent, if you're representing the buyer, these are the new changes to the condo writer. So obviously, we all know submitting an offer, filling out the details, and then the condo writer, that was just revised. So obviously, we know that this is where it's found on the contracts. Okay. So the revision that was effective October 1st is on the 4th page of the condo writer. So just a little pro tip, what Arelis mentioned previously, when you're filling out your condo writer, you want to try your best to have the inspection, the HOA application deadline past the inspection deadline. So if your inspection deadline ends on you have 7 days for your inspection, try to put 8 on your 8 or a day after for the HOA application deadline. That way your client isn't incurring so many costs. So you have your inspection costs, your HOA application costs, your condo questionnaire cost, appraisal. So if you can, to try to save your client some money, try to make sure that you have your inspection done first and then you apply for the HOA. Right, so here, this is the new revision to the condo questionnaire that you have been provided with the most recent annual statement and annual budget. So now it's a law, you have to. And then there is also a disclosure portion that was added to the condo writer.
Maria Antonia.
So this was introduced with the Icon Brickell case. Basically, it's giving a disclosure on mixed-use buildings, combining residential, commercial, hotel spaces. This amendment limits condominium property to areas specifically under condo ownership and to address the areas that are shared facilities. So this disclosure, in short, is minimal common elements may exist, such as there's limited shared areas. If there's commercial and residential, you're gonna have those minimal shared areas. Parts of the building may fall outside of the condo declaration, meaning they are not governed by condo rules. And unit owners are still responsible for shared expenses, even for non-condo areas of the building. So it's very important that you let your buyers know that. That's something worth noting. All right, and then here is the receipt. Now they've also added a portion for the, I believe it was the inspector prepared summary, no. I know they've updated here for cooperative documents. So that was updated also October 1st. Condo questionnaire. I'll let you guys get into that.
So the condo questionnaire, how many of you have listings going on that are condos now? No?
No?
How many of you have buyers approved? Looking? Yeah. No? Nobody has any buyers looking? Or any potential buyers that need to get approved? Well, for houses? Okay. Well, we don't have those people, so, right? I'm gonna get a list of all those people, no, I'm kidding. No, but, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a condo listed and we had an offer and it went up from 20% to 25% down according to the.
Yes, the
and I
condo,
said, but they didn't have the money, so I relisted it again and nobody's going to see it. I don't know what's happening.
well, we do
Only
have,
one or two.
we do have programs that it is 20% down, but the rate is gonna be here. And it's not really 25% when they have a lot of problems with the condo questionnaire budget. We do have a program that's 20% if they have the good scores and if they have the money, but the rate's also gonna be here. If the rates are 5 or 6 now, you're gonna be like, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know. I don't know what the,
Well, I mean, it's hard to disclose a rate because
Yeah,
we're
so
not
let's
really,
not disclose
we're not
rates.
really allowed to disclose
We're
a
not allowed
rate
to
without
disclose rate.
disclosing the APR. So
yeah.
it's a case-by-case scenario. So, I mean, it is going to be higher than your standard conventional rate.
Right.
And those are called, like when the condos don't fit the profile, we have, they're called non-warrantable condos. Meaning that they don't meet the reserve guidelines. So there are investors that will do those condominiums, but they require a bigger down payment, like I said, 20% down, and the interest rates will be higher than your standard conventional rate.
Yep, but going back to this condo questionnaire, this is something that, you know, you have to do on all your condo deals when they're purchasing a home, and this can make or break your deal based on what's on there. If they have a litigation, like he was saying, if somebody's suing somebody, if it's a slip or fall, if the suing is not gonna affect the condo unit that they're buying, you know, a lot of the times we'll do the loan. If the investor concentration is too high, it's an exception, we might do it, we might not do the loan. So a condo questionnaire is required, but you can't do it up front, or you can, I don't know, maybe, that'd be nice. Like if you guys are able to list the condos, right? And she does have a form that she's gonna put on here. It's a full doc, and some programs don't need full document form, this form. If for some reason the seller has a good relationship with the HOA and they can fill it out, and you could put this on your listing, this will help a lot of lenders out. Because this, you can't get up front because it's gonna cost money every time they fill it out. But if the seller lives there, maybe the HOA will do it for free. If it's gonna cost the seller money and he doesn't wanna do it, whatever, we'll do it in the middle of a loan. But this can break or make your deal too, but there's nothing we could do about that. So this is required depending on the program. Some programs, if the buyer is putting 25%, there's a different form that we use. But if for some reason the seller has a good relationship with the HOA, they will be great if they can do that. But this is another form that's, it's good if you're able to do it. So you don't have to do it, but it'll be good. Because if you see all the questions that are on there,
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
Go ahead.
You know, you could see some questions on there that it's about certain things that, you know, they want to make sure that we are giving a loan to, you know, that's not risky. And some of those, you know, if it's going to hurt a building, if they're suing for like X amount of money and the building's going to go broke, now we don't have a loan because now they're going to use everything that they have in savings. So it just depends. It's not required, but if it's a good seller that has a good relationship, it's nice if they can do it, but you don't have to. You don't want to add to that?
No, that's good.
So actually, I have a question for both of you. When would you do what's the difference between doing, when would you like trigger a full condo versus a limited condo review?
So if we already know from up front, you want to go? If we know from up front that the condo has certain issues and we know that it's not going to fit the guideline of going with a full condo questionnaire based on the background of the condo, then because it goes back to that listing agent. If the listing agent already told us, if we called the condo and we know, then we're going to do a limited condo questionnaire, because a limited condo questionnaire it's probably half the questions that are on there.
That's what happened to you. What was your name again? I'm sorry. You, yeah, with the listing. Huh?
Yeah, Linda.
Linda?
Yeah.
I think that's what happened to you, that you went from a full review to try to get a limited review, and then the down payment jumped from 20% to 25% to get a limited review. Unfortunately, they didn't have the funds.
Right.
Also, it went from 9.5% in reserve to 7.8 after so many assessments. So the lender required extra money, but it didn't.
Right.
So I explained everything to whoever wants to see it now, and I don't know why there's not too many buyers or waiting for something.
It's just condos are tricky now. Everybody's afraid of buying condos right now.
Sometimes,
Like, who wants to pay like $1,000, $200 HOA every month? You know.
how much was your condo?
So
Only 165. It went down from 185.
I see.
We kept going down, and it was out of the market for 2 months, and then he called me to release it again. But
No,
I
no.
only showed it like once or twice, and they
So this is where you.
offer.
So I always like to, like, I love numbers, okay? This is what we do. But sometimes this is where you guys become teachers to your sellers. So now your seller's condo stuck. The buyer didn't have an additional amount. So maybe like 20% of 165 is 33,000. To go to 25%, it goes to 41. So it's an extra 8,000. So maybe if somebody would have done these numbers, right, to you and the buyer's agent, you guys could have come up with something, like maybe the seller could have paid for a little bit of their closing costs to make those numbers work for both. Because now you have a condo that's stuck. So,
Yeah, they changed their mind. Well,
the buyers changed their mind?
Yeah, because they
Oh, okay.
wanted certain, interest rate, and
yeah.
it wasn't my client. I haven't said it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an idea too. If you guys notice that a deal is falling apart because now the percentage increased, if you guys do your numbers and it's not that much of a difference, try to make it work with the buyer and the seller. See what the seller owes, because a lot of these properties sometimes are free and clear, so they're gonna get no money no matter what. So maybe if they lose a little bit to gain a lot, you can make the deal together, make everybody happy, and make it work.
Exactly.
You have another question? Okay.
Have you heard about a second mortgage, like to double mortgage to make it happen? They even offer that, but they didn't want it. So.
Yeah, there is an investor that will do a second to use it as a down payment. The problem that you're going to run into that the minimal amount that they will lend on that second is $50,000 plus. So if you're looking for a small condominium, it's not going to work. Now, if it's a condominium that is, $400,000 or $500,000, you might meet that $50,000 as a second to complete that 25%. So the seller will put, let's say, 10% or 50%, whatever is required, and the second will be for the extra 5 or 10% that they don't have. But it has to be at least $50,000.
The loan amount
The loan amount for
cannot
the
be
second.
less than 50.
For the second.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's $8,000, it's not going to work.
All right, so condo questionnaire, who usually completes this? Property managers or a condo association member on the behalf of the association. All right, so we kind of already got into all this about the condo questionnaire. Okay, so title insurance and title lien search. Like every other property, we're gonna do our title search, our lien search. We're gonna have our title insurance on both the loan and the owner's title to insure the deed. So we're also going to have what's called a condo endorsement. This endorsement ensures that the lender the condo is compliant with applicable laws and regulations. The condominium association has no undisclosed claims or liens on the unit. The unit's title and owner's rights to use the common areas are free from legal issues. So this is just for title insurance purpose. This is a little endorsement that we add to the policy for the lender to cover those. All right, so HOA estoppel. We'll do our title search, our lien search, and then an HOA estoppel. So basically it's just a search of the HOA, seeing if they have any debts, any upcoming assessments, any litigation. Sometimes we'll have a portion there on the estoppel about litigation, and also just any violations. Sometimes property owners or their unit owners will have certain things that need to be fixed before the unit is resold.
Do you guys all know what estoppel is? Okay, everybody knows? That's the guide to the title company to see if anybody is not paying the HOA or is basically in delinquency. That's very important too to ask, because we had files.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No.
So we have had files that were in the middle of everything, and then the estoppel comes back, and they owe all this money that, wow, now the file doesn't work because the seller is delinquent and nobody knew. So we're like, how do we not even know this when we're listing a property? Like, how do you not ask those questions? You know what I mean? So that's also very important to ask about.
If they're like if there's past due fees. Sometimes, like she was mentioning, that they won't pay their HOA dues for months, and then now you have to deal with an attorney to get a payoff, and that sometimes lengthens the process of closing, because sometimes when attorneys are involved, it takes a little bit longer when their hands are in the pot as well. All right, so here you have, this is an example of a payoff estoppel request. This is what we see on title side. So you'll see there's questions if it's in collections, what the regular assessment is, when it's due, if the current owner has paid through the month, where if there's any money owed, what the HOA includes. So in this one, there's water, sewer, and garbage included. If there's any proposed special assessments or any assessments still owed. And then they'll provide details if there's any violations. Transfer information. Sometimes when you're transferring ownership, you have to pay a transfer fee. And that's usually, we'll see that here on our estoppel. So if your buyers or your sellers, because the seller is usually responsible for the transfer fee, if your sellers see an extra fee for a transfer fee, it's because the HOA estoppel says that there's a transfer fee, and we can always provide you with the document for your client so they're understanding that it's not a junk fee, it's an actual fee. All right, so here, all right, the HOA approval process. We are mostly all familiar with this. They have their screening process, approval timeline, and then sometimes they have new owner orientations. All right,
And
closing documents.
sorry,
Go ahead.
I have to keep saying, just because we've had this happen too. Sometimes the HOAs for the approval process, that's also delayed our closing because nobody knows. Nobody, for some reason, they don't know how long the HOA takes for an approval. Some HOAs are fast, but some we've seen them for 30 days, but then now our contractors were in for 20. So our rates expired, everybody's waiting, and the borrower is not approved. And we had one buyer that the daughter, for some reason, was going to live there, and that was okay, because that's allowed. But then nobody told us that, you know, you can't have criminal background. So the HOA approval took like 30 days, past our contract date. Again, nobody knew how long that approval was, and they couldn't even close. We were clear to close, and we couldn't close because somebody had a criminal background and nobody knew about it. So that's also kind of important when, you know, when you guys ask the HOA too, like, what are the requirements? Some of them have credit scores requirements.
Income.
Some realtors don't know that, what the credit scores, that's important.
Some
Any
have income requirements as well.
income requirements, really?
Yeah.
Credit score requirement.
Usually, mostly
you
like
go.
HOPA.
Oh, there you go,
Yeah.
income.
Yeah.
And remember that on the HOA, it's just not for condominiums, right? You're also gonna run into single-family houses that are part of a condominium where you have to send a HOA application. So it's just not for condos, it's also for what we
Right.
call POT, Planned Unit Development, which is a house in a community. That's gonna require for you to send an HOA application to get approved. And it's gonna be based on credit scores, whatever requirements, like I already was saying, background checks and
And this wasn't a really criminal, she just stole a car. Okay, maybe it's a little bit criminal.
Oh my God.
So you steal a car, but it wasn't like a murder or anything. And you know, we were all ready to go, and they couldn't get it. So the HOA, it's important to find out how long they're going to take, because some buyers would just sit on it. They don't even do it.
And find out what are the credit score requirements are to apply for that specific
You need to see
HOA. Yeah.
everything. The rules and regulations is very important.
Yeah.
Sometimes the car.
Parking garage. I had a case where I had a case.
Oh yeah.
I had a case.
Commercial vehicles.
Beds,
Yeah.
age.
Yep.
I had a case like that I didn't know, nobody told me that there was 3 cars in the family, right? And yes, we got to clear the clothes and everything. Now there's 3 cars. The HOA only gives you 2 cars to park. So what do you do with the 3rd car?
Yeah.
You cannot be parked in a common area 24 hours a day. So that little things like that become a problem.
Commercial vehicle, yeah.
There's so many things, so many things.
Many.
Yeah.
That's why the better
Yeah.
work you do up front, the easier it's
I
going to be for
know.
you at the end. So you don't get 100 calls.
And everything's our fault, your fault, right? I don't understand.
Titles fault.
That's all.
I don't.
All right, so ownership transition, this is just when you're closing, try to make sure that at the closing table, you get a copy of the unrecorded deed for your clients, because the HOA will require it. It's gonna be one of their, to set up their system, they always required the deed. So we can, as a title company, give you an unrecorded version of that. All right, so ownership transition. Try to always ensure that your buyer knows how to set up their HOA dues, their fees, and then always make them aware of their ongoing responsibilities, insurance, if it's one of those that just require an HO6 policy. Just usually it's tied into the loan, right? When you're doing a
When you're doing a
escrowed.
Yeah, when you're doing a
Yeah.
condo, the HOA covers the outside most of the time, and then you only need insurance for the inside. So,
And then
Contents.
also just let them know that the association fees are paid separately. They're not going obviously towards your monthly
payment.
We're going to
Payment.
qualify them based on that HOA fee per month to make sure they qualify, but the HOA gets paid outside the mortgage payment.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Awesome.
This is us. Woo! No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so
Thank you guys so much. Do you guys have any questions? Any questions regarding condos? New forums?
Is the insurance for the inside mandatory if they have a loan or not?
yes, if they have their condo free and clear when they pay it off, you don't need insurance. But when you have a loan, it's required for the inside only if the HOA covers the outside. If the HOA does not cover the outside, they need it for both.
And if you guys, for the people here or the people that are listening online, like you can always reach out to us. Don't worry, like don't hesitate, don't be afraid. Like call us anytime. You have questions about a condo, you're not sure about anything, or HOAs or pre-approvals and things like that. We're inside partnership and we here to help you guys to expedite the process and to make sure that you guys close those loans. So always call us. I mean, our numbers are not there, but you can always
My
contact Aurelie.
My number is 561
I have the cards
561.
inside every package.
Oh, you have the card?
But
Okay.
for everyone online.
Okay.
For everyone
five-
online, her number is 561-951-3885.
Slower, slower.
561-951-3885. And my number is 561-252-3655. So please call us if you have any questions about condominiums.
Or houses.
Or houses, or
Don't just call us for hard
or
things
lot
now.
loans,
Give
or
us regular
mobile homes,
loans
or-
too, okay?
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you.